Welcome back to ECTV. It's 2024. 2024 is going to be a massive year for sim racing for so many reasons, between new games coming out, updates for games, more content, the whole 9 yards, and honestly, I'm really excited. But one thing that kind of took us all a little bit by surprise towards the end of 2023 was low fuel motorsport coming to Assetto Corsa, the first Assetto Corsa. Obviously already established in ACC, already established doing R Factor 2, albeit I have to check, but I think they might no longer do R Factor 2 because of their new competition servers that they set up exclusively in the game. And obviously the whole point of LFM is that it brings competition server type setups to games that maybe don't have it already. So I think the likes of AMS2, for example, can't have an LFM type setup because of the way they set their servers up in the back end in the game. So the great thing about Assetto Corsa 1 being is that there's so many mods, there's so many opportunities to include different things and tracks and cars and all sorts into the game, visual changes, the whole lot. So LFM coming to Assetto Corsa is absolutely awesome. Like I say, took us all a little bit by surprise at the end of last year, and it's absolutely awesome. It was, and I believe still is, in beta at the moment, so I'm sure there'll be a hell of a lot more to come. But what I wanted to talk about today was the top 3 things that I think I would like to see LFM include next as part of their continual evolution and updates that they do. How to burn your tyres up. Kill them in 100 meters. Just like that. So let's get into my points of what I wanted to discuss. So point number 1 is already taken care of. We're driving one of them. And I mean, my point was specifically around these cars, but also around paid content generally. So what I wanted them to do is not be afraid to use paid for content and balance things. Balance the servers they have available between paid content and free content. At the moment, everything they use is free. The Cupra TCR, the Formula 3 car, the Mazda MX-5, all of them are free content. And that's great because they need to stress test the servers, also stress test people's interest. Everyone raved about it when they first announced it, but you know, they need to actually see if it's going to be worth their time and investment. And I think it's been a really good success, especially as it's in beta at the moment. So it's understandable that they've gone for free content at this point. Our first point has been taken care of by the fact that we now have seen that they've got a partnership with VRC for the Super Tourers. What I'm driving right now is the not Vauxhall Vectra. And this was going to be the first thing I was going to suggest, not only using paid content, but specifically these. We've been crying out for some sort of competition server or something where we can get, you know, have some real competition, some real races that doesn't take somebody's time and effort, one individual person's time and effort to set up in like a Discord group or something like that. We wanted exactly what LFM is going to offer us. And there's plenty of other mod production houses or teams or whatever you want to call them that produce some absolutely awesome stuff, such as RSS, obviously VRC actually have free content on their site as well, which is cool. I haven't tried much of it, to be fair, but it's great that it's there. But paid content, and for me, I would want to split it between, Jesus Christ, split the number of servers between paid content and free content. I think at the moment there's 6 servers available per hour, or roughly around that. So split it, either, you know, two servers are with paid content, and I mean by paid content I don't just mean cars, I mean cars and tracks. 2 servers are paid content, or 3, so half. And the rest are with free stuff. But I think Assetto Corsa has got the fan base, that people that like Assetto Corsa are willing to pay for content. They know what it brings, they know what it can offer them, so you might as well leverage it. It's good for the modders as well because they'll have more eyes and more attention on their mods that they produce. And it's good for us because those of us that want to use this kind of stuff, like the Super Touries that I'm in now, have that opportunity without having to find a specific dedicated Discord or group of people that set up their own server, etc. And there's so much out there, there's so much content out there that it really can't go wrong. One thing I will throw into the mix though is a bit of a caveat, and it's not a caveat to, you know, whether this is good or not, it's a caveat of how much effort should be put in. Obviously the modding teams are already doing what they're doing, they're already producing the content, but for Low Fuel Motorsport, are they doing this to stress test how things might work on AC2 if they've got some, you know, some information from the developers? Will the developers even, you know, put their own competition server type setup into Assetto Corsa 2? So it's really a balancing act. It's you know, it's a fine balance for those guys, the team at LFM, on what they should do. But for us right now, you know, we're here for it. It's wicked. My second point, I want to talk about how they can structure what they're already doing. My third point is about expanding on that, but my second point is how they can configure their structure. So, obviously, the original principle of LFM was to, in some ways, mirror what iRacing do with their you know, competition service that they've got built into iRacing itself. It was to bring that to a game that doesn't have it, which is Assetto Corsa Competizione. Assetto Corsa Competizione has limited categories and types of cars, and a lot of them, to be honest with you, you've got to weigh up the effort perspective. A lot of them don't get used because of bad BOP or numerous other reasons. In AC1 we don't really have that, and I think it's a less serious audience. People are, especially the fact that this is, you know, a 10-year-old game, people are willing to put up with different types of little niggles and nuances and stuff like that, because what it gives them is variety and opportunity to race stuff that perhaps that they wouldn't have ever dreamed of doing otherwise, for a very respectable price. So the current structure is that they've got the on-hour races with different categories and types of cars, and we talked about paid content already. For me, I think the opportunity comes where they could look at something like a Gran Turismo. And again, I'm really leaning into the fact that here that I think the Assetto Corsa audience is a little less sweaty and serious than ACC or iRacing. So if you look at what Gran Turismo 7 does, and Gran Turismo Sport as well when that was around, not only does it have the daily races, or they're actually really weekly races, which are, you know, very similar to what we've got already in LFM in some ways, but also they do things like nations and manufacturers cups, and I think there is an opportunity to do something like that here. Take the best of what happens there, because it's, you know, there's no driver swaps in Gran Turismo. Although it's possible in AC1, it is difficult to do. And speaking of modifications, just to slightly circle back on that, the fact that ACC Drive, and for those of you that don't know what that is, it's basically an app which gives you more information than you get from the game organically, but also allows one of your teammates to set up your pit stops for you for driver swaps and stuff like that, which, again, organically the game doesn't allow you to do. So the fact that someone has managed to produce something which can allow you to do that means, you know, even something that felt so closed off and like we were never going to get that type of functionality in ACC because it felt so closed off. The fact that someone's managed to produce that, I think there is a potential that someone could do something a little bit more simple than currently currently capable of doing in AC1 for driver swaps. But anyway, that's on the mods point. If you take it just from a single driver perspective, like I say, Gran Turismo is exactly that, and they have nations and manufacturers, and there's so much content in AC1 that I think you could take some of the best of what's there and mirror that here. I would love it if, like, for example, you enter the championship, which was once a week or something like that for 6 weeks, and you had to pick a manufacturer, and they gave you what the categories were going to be. So, all right, in most of the time in Gran Turismo, it's Group 3 and Group 4, which are the equivalent of GT3 and GT4. But there is such an expansive content in AC1, you could do it with way more than that. You could do some road cars, and to be honest with you, arguably Gran Turismo could do the same here, but I know they don't BOP any of the road cars particularly, well, certainly not to the same extent that they do with the GR3 and GR4 category cars, but I think you could do something like that here. Or certainly like nations competitions where you are, you know, fighting people in your own country or area, and it comes together for a bigger competition at the end. That's probably a lot of work, but I would love to see, I'm just, you know, spitballing ideas here. What I would love to see is looking at other racing games, be them Sims, be them Simcade, whatever it is, and try and bring some more of the, you know, the good points, what's done well in those, into such an expansive game that is AC1. Utilization of road cars is an opportunity, and by that I mean, if you look at the servers that we currently have right now in LFM, they're all race cars at the moment. Formula 3, the Mazda touring car I know is, I say barely a race car, but it is. It's a track car. You've got the Cupra TCR, the Formula 3 I've already mentioned. You've got the multi-class stuff in the LMP3 and stuff like that. What you could do, and I'd be interested to hear people's opinion on this one, is have road car, slow road car, and one of the servers. And this gives you a bit of consistency. If you want to learn to drive a certain type of car, I don't just mean to the specific car itself, but I mean a road car, a road racer like a GT3 RS or something like that. And then your track cars like your Radical is a server. So that's 3 servers. You know, slow road car, supercar, your track cars, KTM Crossbows, Radicals, things like that. And then 3 race car servers with different types of race cars. It gives somebody a bit of everything. Some of it might be more popular than others, I appreciate. And I'm sure they have to play around with the formula a little bit. But that would be cool as well. Gran Turismo does road cars. Whether it's good or not is debatable, but they do it. And that takes me on to point 3. For me, is slightly different to point 2 in the fact that I'm going to talk about the more sweaty people out there, the people that like some real competition. It's not really me most of the time. Don't get me wrong, I like to win. I'm competitive. I wouldn't race otherwise, but I'm not the world's most competitive person. I'm certainly not the person that's going to put in loads of hours of practice and stuff like that. But what has gone down really, really well and has worked really well is LFM Pro in ACC. And if they can bring something like that to AC1 as well, with some longer races, and that, coming to my point around driver swaps, I know they do driver swap races as well. And if someone can produce an app, like I was saying earlier, where it improves the driver swap experience, because it is kind of, you know, shoehorned in, it's not an original part of the game for AC. If someone can produce something, or what, you know, even if they decide to go down the route, because I know there's certain leagues that do driver swaps at the moment, and it works fine. It does work. People manage to make it work. They just have long pit stops, which is, you know, in some ways realistic. So anything like that would be awesome. But LFM Pro is also an opportunity here, I think. Longer races, you know, 2.4 hours, 3 hours, which people can do on their own, or, you know, maybe 3 hours might be a bit extreme, but some people will do it. But certainly the competitive side of where, yeah, it's the once a week championship type setup, and then that hopefully then caters to everybody. We've got your more casual week by week daily races with a sprinkling of, you know, some of the best of Gran Turismo in there, and Forza, and, you know, just a different setup and makeup and the way they go about putting races together. Utilization of paid mods in a nice split kind of way, where you've got half of them free, half of them paid in terms of servers, or, you know, 60-40 or 70-30, whatever it ends up being. And then my final point was about the competition aspect. Because I would do it, you know, if I had a radical competition or something like that, I would 100% enter that. And that was LFM Pro for the, you know, for the season, and I think LFM have got a really, really strong 2024 ahead of them, and I'm here for it. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let's get a conversation going. You never know, they might see it. They might get some of our ideas and might incorporate it. But yeah, drop a like if you enjoy my kind of content. And I will see you on track, hopefully in streams and in the chat in 2024.